Pepper, pleasure to have you here. This is the Nasscom in Conversation series, and happy to be hosting this with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Great. So, India's healthcare system is at a turning point with rising patient needs, uneven access, rapid technological advances. In this conversation, we will explore how deep tech and smarter systems can actually close the care gap and truly transform the healthcare outcomes for every Indian. So let's get started.
Sure.
Let's start first with the big picture. When you look at India's healthcare landscape today, where do you see are the biggest gaps in delivering quality patient care?
Okay. Firstly, I think India's healthcare is at the most dynamic phase that we have probably seen over many, many years, right? I think there are multiple problems, but I will probably talk about three problems. First and foremost problem I would say is we are at a stage where healthcare is extremely decentralized in our country. At one stage, you have very large organizations running, healthcare, providing healthcare to patients across the country, and then you have government-based healthcare facilities that are reaching out to our rural sector, to sectors that can't afford, healthcare straight away. And then you have your sectors that consist of small hospitals. Now, today the data is very, very spread out everywhere, and therefore, you have to carry the data with you wherever you go, right? And healthcare is one such where if you get into a serious illness, you need to go from one facility to another, primarily from a general journey from a general physician to a specialized. Now you need to carry your data along, and since you don't trust that data, you repeat that whole process.
Yeah.
So that data not being in one place is a big problem. The second problem as a country, as we are looking to be we are going to be the third largest economy very shortly. But our accessibility to healthcare in rural areas still needs a lot of work to do. The government, of course, has done a number of initiatives in terms of the laying down the health stack, preparing the stage for expansion in that area, to enable technology interventions. But I think there's a lot more to do to make sure, because as a country, we can't call ourselves developed till healthcare is accessible, the same quality of healthcare is accessible across the population. Yeah. I think that's something that we really, really need to work as a country. And the third related to this is also the affordability of healthcare. Right? I mean, while the government infrastructure does its best at the rural level, today as a country, close to 50% of our expenses is paid out of our wallets. Yeah. And even today we are in a situation that one major illness can turn a family bankrupt. Right? So we need a system where healthcare can be more affordable to everybody. Right? I mean, in my view, these three things is what I would lay out as problems that we'll need to look at as a country.
Yeah. Very rightly said, and that kind of, gives me an opportunity to go a little bit deeper into some of the systemic challenges. So, what according to you, whether it is infrastructure, data or processes, what makes it harder for patients in India particularly to get the timely and effective care?
I think it's a little bit of all. I think we are very different as a country, right? I mean, I think we're not a country where you can pick Western problems and use it in our thing. We're unique in many ways, and we're going to be and will remain unique in a healthcare perspective. So we need a solution that is an Indian solution.
Yeah, very uniquely Indian, yeah.
We are going to have remote areas that have very minimal access to the internet. I mean, we have minimal access to power, we have minimal access, and therefore to the internet. And therefore, I think infrastructure is a problem. Primarily, you will hear when you talk to a lot of startups that work with rural areas, is connectivity is a big issue. Of course, we will need to do better in terms of improving our infrastructure, but we need to also do better in terms of innovating from a technology perspective, how our dependence to some of this can be minimal, right? I mean, there is edge AI and other technologies today available that you can ride along, with some of this not being too well, right? I mean, so infrastructure, when I say infrastructure, it is, basic things. I'm not talking very complicated infrastructure, it's basic power, connectivity, accessibility to some of the rural areas, right? So, and this is extremely important because, all of us being in urban areas forget the context that close to about 67 to 70% of our population is in the rural areas.
Yeah.
And they have the least amount of access to healthcare because only 30% of the professionals are probably servicing them. Therefore, we will need to work on that infrastructure, but we'll also need to work on how can some of the technologies help overcome a few of those. But some are very necessary, but some can be overcome. The second is on data. I think this is super critical and I think we have regulations that are emerging, and we are in the process of, I guess the government is refining some of the policies around it, but it is important that all of this data gets somehow collated together because the more data we have, the more data that we are able to process and analyze and get more insights, the more better we get at delivering technology solutions or technology-based solutions that will kind of help solve some of the problems. So we will need to find a mechanism as a country in terms of how we are able to collate some of this data. Again, the answer exists in terms of the health stack the government has, and one needs to see how that eventually gets adopted across the ecosystem. So I think, at least that's my perspective on these two things. Yeah.
You did touch upon that, in your opening, you were mentioning that, government is doing, there are some bit of early successes. So I want to ask you, you also have come across, there are some pilots that are successful. Some initiatives are already running across the country. Is there anything or something, which ones do you think are actually probably moving the needle on the healthcare outcomes? Can we learn from them on how to scale it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were one of the fastest emerging startup ecosystem in the world, and therefore it's quite natural that there are. And this is a big problem. I mean, we always hear, startups should pick a problem that exists, and there are a lot of problems in this sector, and therefore there's a huge amount of innovation that's waiting to happen. I think a lot of work is happening. Not everybody is seeing commercial success at this particular point of time, and I keep telling them. At least that's my take on this, right? I mean, you're not reporting weather where, you expect rain at 9 o'clock and happens at 9:20, the earth is not going to fall. But this is human beings and accuracy is paramount. And therefore, they will go through a rigor that's going to be very, very different in healthcare. But to answer your question, a lot of innovation, you pick up any segment of healthcare, there is innovation happening. And I'll talk about a few examples, right? I mean, for example, there are startups that are using ML, hear your cough, right, and determine if you have a respiratory condition. And this technology, I understand, is being used in pilot in certain state governments and helped, predict TB by about 85% accuracy. There are startups that are helping us change our sugar, diabetic. I mean, we are the diabetic capital of the country, right? There's something needs to be done because what's the point if you have a young population that gets diabetic in 35, 40 and not able to contribute to the economy? There are startups, numerous of them working in the segments, and many of them work on a concept of constantly evaluating your sugar levels, and then based on that nudge you, walk, take 10 steps or something like that, right? And they've shown, at least a good amount of reduction in sugar levels and kind of things. So there are startups that work on lifestyle related matters. Diagnostic is another big area in India. I mean, it's only in metros such as, we have the privilege of having lab technicians come to our houses, and there are no technicians in rural areas, right? So, and in rural areas, the farmer or anybody there is not going to go to a healthcare facility unless they can't even move themselves, right? It's only in critical, and by the time often it's too late, you're already fighting a battle. But there's so many diagnostic ports. I mean, and one such example comes to mind where they've got the entire diagnostic in a briefcase. I understand in a single prick, you're able to do about 30 plus diagnostic results that you can get, simple things from BP, sugar to maybe more complex things. Now, why is this important? It is important because this, I'm told, can run on solar, your phone battery bank. Right? So what does that mean? You can go to the remote part of the country to be able to access that. It doesn't need internet. So it's able to store that data through technology, and then eventually generates reports that is ABA compliant, and you're able to pull that out after that unique ID. So you're able to generate reach to the the remote part of the country. And of course there are apps that help improve administration. Right? I mean, The key aspect of in any hospital is how can you ensure your medical professionals are working on delivering care, not spending time with documentation in patients. Right? But I mean, there is a process. Unfortunately, they need to follow. They need to document. They need to write how they reached a conclusion. So there are apps that will use, study the hospital diagnostic, medical records, help improve administrative process, and end of the day give that time for the nurses and doctors to do back. So I mean, we have innovation happening at amazing amount of space across the spectrum of the ecosystem in healthcare, which is really fascinating to watch and hear. Yeah.
It is. I'm sure something big is going to come out.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time. Yeah.
True. Okay, let's talk a little bit about tech now, like whether it is deep tech, from AI to data interoperability. It has been a game changer in some of the sectors, right? Yeah. Where do you see its most immediate and high impact applications in improving patient care in India?
Yeah, I think first kudos for that we have a health stack. It is if you don't have a health stack, then your development happens in different ways, and then you develop an app, I develop an app. We don't know how can we communicate with each other. So today, I think India has like we did for UPI, which is revolutionized the way we do fintech. Not only in India, I think there are other countries learning from that. I believe we have a tech stack through the Ayushman Bharat digital mission, which is firstly open, anybody can access it. Secondly, it is interoperable, which means you can put any app in it, but they'll be able to communicate and share data with each other or through other means. And finally, it is scalable. We are a country with 1.4 billion people. Our needs are very different from anybody else in the world, right? So, and I think that has enabled the foundation for different types of technology to come and right. I think where we are seeing a lot of work is happening across, right? From if you look at pharmacy, from drug discovery to enabling better ways, drug resistance, right? A lot of work happening in the pharmacy sector. From a regular healthcare management, you're seeing a lot of work in predicting illnesses even before they physically manifest, right? We are hearing a lot of cases across, right, where youngsters doing exercise and they're collapsing.
Yes.
So could this not have been predicted with the use of technology in advance? There must be something that's happening in the human body that that could have been picked up, right? So there are a lot of work that's happening in the prediction area. Huge amount of work, you may predict, but it has to be validated. So a lot of work in terms of how can you take these care to the patient, right? And I'll come back to this because we cannot revolutionize healthcare in India till you revolutionize rural healthcare. So how can you take the care to a farmer who's not going to come to the nearest ESI hospital till he or she cannot even walk, right? So how can you take some of these diagnostic tools right there to identify what the problem is, deliver results instantly, because there's no guarantee the person is going to come back next day for the results. A lot of work happening in that area, right? Another element, I think, is no technology will be successful till everybody is able to participate in that. The doctors are able to participate in that. The patients are able to participate in that. So we are seeing a lot of ways in which we are able to bring the patient into it. So it could be lifestyle related, it could be administrative efficiencies related, and so a lot of work has happening, improving hospital administration parameters and so on and so forth. And as we grow in this, a lot of innovation is also starting to happen in terms of how do you manage the payment ecosystem, right? If you've been in any hospital in India, you're told that you're going to be discharged in the morning, but you don't see the sunlight. You see the sun setting. Probably the sun is already set. It takes that much time.
Yes.
We can do renal transplants in 2 hours. But it takes us 1 full day to process an insurance claim. It's a huge amount of innovation waiting to happen, and that's already happened with some of the infrastructure laid out by the government in the claims management space. So I think the length and breadth there is innovation that is happening, and what is driving this innovation is entirely I would say artificial intelligence has been the base of anything and everything that we're doing in this space. Of course, we're using IoTs, we're using Edge AI, we're using different mechanisms to collect data, right? There are different technologies that we use to collect data, but in the underlying, we're using AI to process that. And then, most of our systems should ensure that they're in compliance with our Ayushman Bharat digital mission so that they can show up in those, and then we enable interoperability. So we've as a country decided we'll follow the FHIR protocols, which is fast, healthcare, the FHIR protocol, which helps to make sure everybody, irrespective of what app you develop, Java, .NET, or any other technology, they can communicate with each other. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of progress happening across.
So let's talk a little bit about the ecosystem now. You've
Sure.
beautifully laid out what all is happening. What role further can the private healthcare providers, governments, even the startups, health tech startups that are building amazing solutions? What role can all of them play together in building a more patient-centric healthcare ecosystem?
No, this is excellent. Healthcare problems cannot be solved in silos.
Yes.
And a common thing that we get to see is startups will create a healthcare product in silo, and then you come to believe that it just doesn't fit in this, and it dies a death. So, healthcare solution is all around. In my opinion, is a community-driven approach, right? It has numerous stakeholders, starting from the healthcare professionals who are a significant portion of that, because nobody understands our human body better than a healthcare professional. So you cannot and should not do anything without working closely with them, because they are, at the end of the day, the subject matter experts.
Absolutely.
The second and important is the policymakers, the governments of the day, the bureaucrats at the local stage, because we can do anything that we want in the private sector, but we will be able to service only a few. The government is the one that is going to be able to enable to take it to the last mile at a scale that none of us can imagine.
True.
And therefore, are they on board? Are we aligning with some of those? And the third is, people like us, because we are, all of us are going to go through this healthcare journey at some time as a patient, or as somebody who's taking care of a close family member. So how's that enabling them to be in the center of that decision-making process? How's that enabling them to be participative in that whole process? I think that's going to be critical, as well. So I think it's a combination of involving all these stakeholders together. So anything that does that will kind of help accelerate the process. And I want to take this opportunity to talk. One of the doctors mentioned, and this resonated a lot with me, is that don't innovate something that changes entirely the way you do things, right? I mean, because there's a belief that in healthcare there's a process, there's an SOP, so you do A to B to C for a reason. Now, if you're going to do A to E, chances are there's going to be a resistance. Is there a way that you can work through the process without making a significant change and then slowly make incremental improvements? I'm told could be a better approach for adoption by this, at least by the experts in field. So
has to be pretty simple also. It cannot be something
I mean, that's an absolutely great point. We forget simplicity,
yes.
Right? The reality is the users at scale are really simple people.
Yeah.
They are the healthcare professionals, the rural, there are nurses. You can't give them apps that you need to click 20 times to reach a particular place. They have to face, the user interface should be very intuitive, and that's a great point.
And UPI is a great example. I mean,
absolutely.
It's so simple. At the click, it happens. So it has to be very simple.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we kind of conclude this, one question, one last question to you. So if you've had to paint a picture of healthcare in India 5 to 10 years from now, and of course we believe that deep tech is going to get fully leveraged, and we are going to grow faster with the emerging technologies. What would you want it to look like for an average patient?
Yeah, I think for an average patient, I would love, and I am reasonably firstly certain by, somewhere in 2030, I don't know, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, I think we'll have the privilege to have the most advanced healthcare system. Right? I'm going to,
wow, forecast it.
Yeah, I'm going to forecast this, put my neck on the table, we'll see. Okay. I'm confident with the talent pool that we have, with the intent of every stakeholder in the country. I think that's where we'll simply head. And technology, deep tech will be the center reason why we'll drive towards that, right? To me, I'd love to see a healthcare system that is accessible to one and all. I'd love to see a healthcare system that is affordable to one and all. And I'd love to see a healthcare system that predicts, before symptoms starts. So we are not trying to solve an illness, but we are preventing an illness, right? Changing ourselves from reactive, to care to actually preventing care. I think that will be the fundamental shift that technology will bring in, right? And lastly, and I think healthcare will be participative, right? I mean, today, a lot of healthcare doctor they decide what we want to do. Patients will be in the center of that care. They will be able to take their own decisions. They will be participative in that decision process. And that's the healthcare that I envisage in maybe 5 years, 10 years, whatever. So that's my take on that.
Hopefully, we'll get there pretty soon, maybe.
Sure, we will. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I think this was lovely chatting.